My friends, healing rarely announces itself with fireworks. It doesn't arrive in a single radiant moment of triumph. Instead, it comes quietly, like dawn seeping through a darkened room, soft and slow, touching everything without making a sound. Carl Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. That is why true healing often feels invisible." It isn't the absence of pain, it's the transformation of it. Maybe you still think you're broken because the light isn't blinding yet. But healing rarely feels like light. It feels like stillness after the storm. It begins the moment you stop trying to return to who you were before the pain and start becoming who you were always meant to be after it. In our culture, progress is often measured by what can be seen: smiles, productivity, optimism. But Jung understood something deeper. Healing is an inner metamorphosis, where what is unseen carries more truth than what is visible. It happens quietly beneath the surface, through silence, small acts of self-respect, and the courage to face another day without running from yourself. Think of healing as a psychological sunrise. The night doesn't end instantly. The darkness gradually softens. Every breath you take in awareness, every time you forgive instead of retaliate, every moment you choose peace over proving yourself, that is healing unfolding in real time. Modern psychology echoes Jung's insight. Studies in trauma recovery, from experts like Dr. Bessel Kolk, show that healing begins when we reconnect with the body and the present moment, not when the pain disappears, but when it finally finds a place to rest within us. Neuroscience even supports this. Mindfulness and compassion literally rewire the brain's emotional networks, creating new patterns of calm and resilience. So if your healing feels quiet, ordinary, or invisible, remember, it's supposed to. You are not failing because you don't feel ecstatic. You are simply shedding the noise that once kept you disconnected from yourself. In this series, we'll explore 6 subtle signs that you've healed more than you realize. Not the loud kind of healing that demands applause, but the kind that whispers through your soul. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Because sometimes, the proof that you've healed is not that you've stopped hurting, it's that your pain no longer defines who you are. The 6 quiet signs of healing. Sign 1. You no longer chase closure. There was a time when you needed answers for everything. You replayed conversations until your mind was sore from overthinking. You wanted to know why they left, why things changed, why the story ended the way it did. But one day, something inside you simply got tired of chasing ghosts. You realized that closure is not a gift someone gives you. It's the decision to stop bleeding for what no longer exists. Carl Jung believed that every person we meet represents an aspect of our own psyche. When those people leave, they don't take our peace with them. They take the lessons that helped us grow. Healing begins when you understand that their role in your life was complete. You no longer need their apology, their explanation, or their recognition to feel whole. True closure, Jung might say, comes from integrating the experience into your story, not rewriting it. You've healed more than you realize when you can walk away without resentment and stop waiting for the door to open again. Sign 2. You no longer need to be understood. There was a time when being misunderstood burned like rejection. You wanted to be seen, validated, and recognized for who you truly are. But healing brings a quieter confidence. You begin to realize that not everyone has the capacity to meet you where you are. Some people can only perceive from the level of their own wounds. Jung taught that what we criticize or admire in others often mirrors what we deny or desire within ourselves. When people misjudge your depth, it's rarely about you. It's about the part of themselves they've refused to face. You've healed more than you realize when someone misunderstands your heart and you no longer rush to defend yourself. You simply stay grounded, calm, and self-knowing. Because peace doesn't come from being understood, it comes from understanding yourself. Sign 3. You stop romanticizing the past. Healing changes how you see your history. What once looked like tragedy begins to look like initiation. You no longer replay old memories trying to change their endings. You stop asking what if and start asking what did it teach me. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." By bringing awareness to your old patterns, your attachments, fears, and coping habits, you stop repeating them unconsciously. You've made the unconscious conscious, and that is one of the deepest forms of healing. The past doesn't lose significance. it loses its power to control you. Nostalgia turns from ache into appreciation. You can visit your memories without drowning in them. That calm detachment is not indifference, it's liberation. Sign 4. Solitude no longer feels lonely. In the early stages of pain, silence can feel unbearable. You seek distraction, noise, or company just to avoid meeting yourself. But eventually, healing changes the tone of your solitude. Now, when the world grows quiet, you no longer panic. You exhale. You listen. You meet the parts of yourself you once ran from, the ones that carried shame, fear, and regret. And instead of silencing them, you hold them gently. Jung taught that wholeness comes not from rejecting our shadows, but from embracing them. You've healed more than you realize when being alone feels like returning home. You can sit in stillness without feeling abandoned because you've discovered something profound. You were never truly alone. You just hadn't met yourself yet. Sign 5. You respond, not react. There was a time when your emotions controlled the room. A harsh word, a cold silence, or a small rejection could reopen every old wound at once. You reacted not to the present moment, but to the weight of your past pressing against your chest. Every trigger was an echo of unhealed pain. But then, something shifted. You began to notice the pause, a breath between impulse and response. That space is sacred. It's where transformation happens. Jung once said that emotional maturity begins when we stop being possessed by our feelings. Healing doesn't mean you stop feeling anger or sadness. It means those emotions no longer drive your actions without your consent. Now, when something hurts, you breathe. You listen to the emotion before you obey it. You can say, I understand why I feel this way, but I don't need to act from it. That self-awareness is invisible strength. No one applauds it, but it quietly rewrites your entire life. Neuroscience confirms this subtle miracle. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for regulation, activates more strongly in those who practice mindfulness and compassion. This means that each time you pause, reflect, and choose peace, you are literally reshaping your brain's pathways toward resilience. So, when you respond instead of react, know this: you are witnessing your evolution in real time. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the integration Jung described when he said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. You are no longer at war with yourself. You are finally listening to yourself. Sign 6. You begin to create instead of escape. Before healing, pain often sent you running. You filled your life with distractions, people, entertainment, constant motion, anything to drown out the inner noise. But healing transforms the way you relate to pain. Instead of fleeing it, you start to translate it. You write, you paint, you pray, you walk in silence. You create. Carl Jung called this individuation, the process by which the psyche becomes whole through self-expression. The soul, once buried under layers of conditioning and fear, begins to speak through art, words, or acts of service. You start to alchemize your suffering into meaning. You've healed more than you realize when your pain no longer consumes you. It fuels you. You start turning wounds into wisdom. You reach out to help others carry what once felt unbearable. Your story becomes a bridge instead of a burden. Modern psychology supports this deeply spiritual truth. Creative expression has been shown to help trauma survivors reintegrate their experiences, restoring a sense of coherence to their lives. What Jung intuited nearly a century ago, neuroscience now proves. Self-expression literally reorganizes the brain's emotional memory systems, transforming chaos into clarity. So if you find yourself writing, painting, or simply breathing through the silence, don't dismiss it as coincidence. That's your unconscious finding language. That's your soul reclaiming its voice. By the time you reach this stage, something subtle yet extraordinary happens. You stop trying to prove that you've healed. You simply live differently. You breathe before speaking. You forgive faster. You no longer need the world to see your progress because your peace is proof enough. This is the quiet culmination of healing. It's not loud, not dramatic, but it's real. The storms that once defined you now only remind you of how deeply you've grown. You are no longer fighting for peace. You are peace. Healing, in the deepest Jungian sense, is not about becoming flawless. It's about becoming whole. Jung wrote that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. To heal is to stop waging war against your own depths, to invite the lost and frightened parts of you back home. There comes a quiet moment, often unnoticed, when pain stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. You revisit the same memories that once shattered you, yet now your heart remains calm. You see the people who once hurt you and feel compassion instead of resentment. That's not weakness, it's evolution. It's your soul shedding its old armor. Healing doesn't erase the past, it transforms your relationship with it. You begin to understand that every heartbreak, every loss, was a thread in the fabric of your becoming. The storms that once broke you open were never punishment, they were initiation. You no longer need chaos to feel alive, because peace has become your natural state. This is what Jung called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your true self. When the ego no longer dominates, when you stop defining yourself by your wounds or your masks, what remains is authenticity. You are no longer the fragments of who you've been. You are the living synthesis of everything you've survived. Healed people love differently. They no longer cling or beg to be chosen. Their love is not desperate but calm, not conditional but clear. They understand that love isn't meant to rescue you. It's meant to reflect you. And when you can love without losing yourself, healing becomes wisdom. You realize, finally, that there was never a finish line, only deepening layers of awareness. Healing is a spiral, not a straight path. Sometimes you'll revisit old pain, only to discover it doesn't hurt the same way anymore. That's how you know the transformation is real. So, if you find yourself breathing easier, sleeping deeper, loving softer, trust that you've already crossed from survival into serenity. You've become the light Jung spoke of, not because you escaped the darkness, but because you learned to carry it with grace. You are whole now, quietly, beautifully, irrevocably whole. If these words found a place in your heart, stay with this journey. Subscribe to the channel, not for noise or quick answers, but for the quiet spaces where reflection lives. Each week, we explore Jung's wisdom, shadow work, and the art of becoming whole, one gentle insight at a time. Let's keep walking this path together, through the silence, through the healing, toward the light within.